Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we can't believe it either. We've got more rumors of the next Switch revision to discuss. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including, yes, more rumors of the next model of Switch. And then on Thursday, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Famicom Detective Club games, spoilers and all. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Patrick, I have started drinking beet juice for its
Okay.
purported health benefits.
Okay.
And I don't like beets. I previous
Beets are
to this
tough.
think
Yeah.
they're kind of like super gross. But I loaded up on beet juice and I'm committed to doing it even though I started on Saturday maybe, so I'm only a few days in.
Oh boy,
But
Mark, I don't know if you can say you're committed to it.
But
You've done it for 2 days.
I know,
You've done
I
it
know,
twice.
I know.
That's not even a
Every
pattern.
Yeah, every morning so
Mhm.
far, and again, it's only been a couple days, when I open up that lid, pour the beet juice into the glass, it's it's a lot, and I wish I was the person who liked beets, who genuinely enjoyed the taste of beets, but I'm not that person, and drinking it does not necessarily improve on the experience.
So do you just have like a jug of beet juice in your refrigerator?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I have multiple jugs because like I said, I'm committed. And so, I was the person at the grocery store
So you're
loading
out
up
like
my
$8.
cart with yeah.
Okay.
Loading up my cart with beet
Mhm.
juice. I did notice that the beet juice also has like a little bit of lemon juice in it, and I don't know if that's like for preservation reasons or if it's to try to improve the taste. But whatever the reason, it is not successful in making it more fun to drink. However, if there is
Mm,
somebody out there who
twist.
like loves beet salads, loves beet juice, I would love to hear a description of what it tastes like to you, because to me it tastes very much like dirt.
Yeah, so I do have some experience with beets, both in salad and juice form, and so I do approach them sort of in separate ways. If it's like a beet salad, I go for like a sort of savory, like feta, arugula, like balsamic sort of
Mm-hmm.
preparation, like a slice of tomato. Like that's all very good, and like that for me, beet salad that works out really well. Beet in a juice, I will use like a beet in a smoothie if I'm making a smoothie, but only if I'm already committed to it being a dirt flavored smoothie, right? This is a
Right.
smoothie that's gonna have a lot of kale in it, a smoothie that's gonna have also spinach, right? If I've already got those things, I'm like, look, it's an earthy smoothie, that's fine. I'm gonna have some like almond butter in here. Like these are just the flavors that we're going to be embracing. Um, but I think if you're just trying to like drink it straight, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's tough.
I know, but in theory, and
Yeah.
make sure my math checks out here though. If in theory I found a good mixer for beet juice, that wouldn't like I by mixing the two together, as long as I was drinking like let's say 8 ounces of beet juice and mixing it with 8 ounces of something else, like I would
Right.
still be getting the health benefits of the beet juice, presuming of course that the mixer I found was not like terrible for me.
Right. Presuming it's not like Everclear or.
Right.
I mean, honestly, if what you're trying to do is like use something like sweet to cut against the whatever flavor of, you
You're
may have
saying
to
use it in my
you may
Lucky
have to go
Charms.
overboard. Yeah, that's right. Mark, speaking of things you can use on your Lucky Charms, my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. Would you like to borrow it? You can certainly try. That was close. We almost did a whole episode talking about beats. We could have done it. I believe in us. All you got to do to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at
At
gmail.com
gmail.com.
and give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of this game for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs me a little bit. Not like a lot. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Maybe a big deal. You could end up with my copy of Untitled Goose Game. That's just it's just the way it rolls. The goose is sneaking around in there. It's in one of the copies of Sonic Forces that goes out, and that's just something we all got to roll with.
Another thing you can do for the show is you can leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, which is the store that I check. Thank you to Landis83 for their 5-star review this past week. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you signal boosting our show any way you can. And a 5-star review also makes Patrick and I feel a little bit better about ourselves. And so if that is something you care about, a 5-star review is a way to make that happen.
Yeah, but it does work. It's effective, but it doesn't last for very long, which is why we need more.
Very true.
And then one last thing, I guess, before we get into what we've been playing is, of course, we will be this Thursday. We are discussing the Famicom Detective Club games, both The Forgotten Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind. And we need your help to discuss them. If you have any questions or if you're playing either of these games and you have impressions that you would like to share with us, please email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
As soon as you can. We're going to be recording that on Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock Pacific time. So get those emails into us sooner rather than later so we can all have a big discussion about Famicom Detective Club. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. I'm gonna be a broken drum. Is that something you say? What am I saying?
No, because
a dead horse. I'm gonna beat a dead horse.
You'd be a broken record, because if you were beating
right.
a broken drum, you wouldn't be making any sound at all. Which means you wouldn't be talking about Hades.
Yeah, I'm talking about Hades, but also I was thinking about the saying that a broken clock is right twice a day. And if that's true, if we want to believe that to be true, then that means that all other clocks are either correct all the time or wrong all the time.
but that is true, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that 99% of clocks are wrong all the time.
You're just adding shading to the clock universe.
That's right. That's right. I want to see all the corners of it. Hades. I obviously will have not stopped playing this game. I love it to pieces, but I am slowly running out of achievable goals in the game. I've done 190 runs in the game. I have over 150 hours in it.
Wow.
I have fulfilled nearly all of the Fated Prophecies. I've purchased all the songs, most of the upgrades for Zagreus's bedroom and the common area and all this stuff. And I'm just I made some real progress on it this over the weekend, and I'm just getting nervous that I'm running out of the things that I can actually do in the game. There are heat levels that I can chase, which every time you can add heat to a specific run by adding difficulty things, very specific difficulty modifiers that have a super high ceiling, right? And you get various rewards up to the 32nd level of heat for each weapon. And I am at most, I think I'm at 12 heat with the fists. So I could keep playing, but at that point it's just grinding. That there aren't aesthetic changes or gameplay changes that are happening along the way. I've sort of hit it. I feel like I've celebrated so many different milestones. I beat Hades for the first time. I beat Hades for the 10th time. And now I understand what the rest of the story is. I've completed that story. I've completed all the relationships. And now I'm almost to completing all the prophecies. And I'm getting nervous, Mark. I might be done. I might be getting close to done with Hades.
That's crazy. Do you think that it's possible that Supergiant Games will release DLC for Hades? Because I know that Bastion, Transistor, I feel like I'm forgetting another one of the games that they did in between there.
Yeah, the one that's baseball or it's wizard soccer.
Pyre?
It's Pyre is correct.
Okay. I can't remember if I can't remember if they did like DLC for any of those, but I feel like maybe it's just because I know you and you've been enjoying it so much, but I feel like Hades has taken off maybe in a way that none of their games have since Bastion. And I'm curious if you think that they will do DLC or if they're like done with Hades because it seems like it's been such a huge success for them.
It does seem like it's been a huge success, but the game was also in early access for like a year, right? When
Right.
it came out on Switch, that was, Hades 1.0, which, that was sort of the culmination of a year of updating and fiddling with it and like getting it right. And it's tough because like absolutely 100% if they put more Hades out, I'm just gonna play it. Like I'm a fan for life now. Um, but the game is also so perfectly balanced right now that if they were like, oh yeah, there's a new like level of the underworld that you can travel through, or like a new god or a new set of gods to grant you boons, um or like a different system or another weapon, like anything else feels like it's balanced so well
Mm-hmm.
right now that like I don't want to put a grain of sand on either side, like to at risk of throwing off the balance. I also, Mark, played some Magical Drop 2 on the Super NES Switch Online, because I'm a sucker for those puzzle games that were never released in the US, that they add to the Super NES Switch Online. Last week, we said that we weren't sure if this was, in fact, the English version, just that the English version had never been released. Um, and yes, it is, in fact, all in English.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you like it?
I liked it okay. I would say it's my least favorite of the Super Famicom puzzle games that they've added. Um, it has a mechanic where there are just like rows and rows of different colored orbs that are sort of like coming down the screen at you, and you have the ability to pull them down, orbs of the same color, and then shoot them back. And whenever there are three in a row, then they like start to knock each other out, and you cause like chain reactions that way. Um, and there are so many specific little like modifiers, where there will be like an orb that is red, but also has like an arrow pointing to the right, or has like a little sword in the middle of it, or like a skull and crossbones. And maybe there's a place in the game that explains what each of these things does, but I do not understand them yet. And when I play and I accidentally trigger one of them, stuff happens and it's amazing, but I don't know what I'm doing. Um, so I don't know. I feel like it's one that I'm gonna probably not going to revisit very much. Um, but it's neat. It's cool to have it there. I had to go through, of course, and organize my Super NES and NES Switch Online libraries again, because they just keep throwing new games on there and they just put them right up at the top because of course you want to see the new stuff. Um, but yeah, that's it's an interesting little game, but I don't think I'm going to be playing it too much.
Well, I finally played some Knockout City. I participated during the block party, which was the free period for the first 10 days of the game's release. Knockout City is the new like team based um, dodgeball multiplayer online game, which I had fun with. I played for maybe an hour and got I actually am not sure, maybe like 10 rounds in or something like that. Um, One thing that threw me when I first started the game is that having not seen a lot of footage outside of the reveal trailer a few months back in that Nintendo Direct, I thought that you actually played as like an orc, as like a ninja, like that kind of thing, and you do
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
The game has a very like sci-fi rockabilly thing going on, which is a
yeah, yeah.
really
It's
is
it's like if cyber it's like if it was cyberpunk but like in the 50s.
yeah, and it's really the character designs are really difficult to look at. It's the one like part of the design of the game where I'm like, "Oh, they're
Yeah.
kind of like Bratz doll versions of like the band members of Squirrel Nut Zippers or something like that." Like it's a very strange art direction choice. But other than that, like I had fun with it. And one thing that's kind of cool is even though the free to play, or I guess like the block party, that like completely free trial has ended, the game is still free to play for the first 25 levels. Like, so you can level up your character to level 25 without having to pay the 20 or $30 it is for the full game. And I played enough rounds
That's
to know
smart.
that, like, it totally is, because I think it's something that you have to experience for yourself. Because I played enough rounds to know that when you're with a good team who's like passing the ball and is coordinated, like, it feels really, really good and is really fun. Um, and so, like, I still kind of want to play this with people, because I think if you got like people coordinated and working together, the idea is really fun. Like, the gameplay itself, I found to be really enjoyable. And I'm curious. It doesn't seem like there are a ton of like level ups for your character, like different abilities. It seems like it's a lot of it is just aesthetic. So it kind of remind me of
Yeah.
Splatoon in that way. But yeah, Knockout City, I think it's worth checking out for sure.
I also think that Knockout City shares something with Splatoon in that it is like sort of that first person shooter mentality without being like a violent game, you know?
Yes.
Um, that's something that I find really attractive about it, like running around in a squad based environment where you're coordinating with other people and like sneaking around and like trying to take people out, but you're just throwing a dodgeball at them, right? And the game is just so like fun and bright and intuitive that like yeah, it all kind of works in harmony together, just like feel accessible and feel like a fun game I want to play.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it has crossplay. I feel like we talked about that
Yeah,
before.
sure does. Yeah.
Um, and there's also like two modes on Switch, which I thought was interesting. There's like performance mode, and I can't remember what they call the other one, but basically it's a choice between 60 frames per second, but you have to have like a high speed internet connection, or
Mm.
30 frames per second. I was playing on 60 frames per second. I am not somebody who like uh notices performance that much unless it's like really terrible. But I play with like an Ethernet adapter, and it all seemed to be fine. The other thing, of course, is I've been playing Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind. I haven't finished it yet. I'm on chapter 8, so I'm fairly close to the end. Have you finished it, Patrick?
I have not finished it yet. I think we may be in just about the same place. Um, but yeah, we will obviously share our thoughts about this on Thursday. But there was a cool little like twist or like action piece in the middle of this one that I was really pleased with. Where like I don't know, I feel like these games like start to sense when like you get bored of them or like when it knows it's like being kind of stale, and then it's like nah, crank it up and like get kind of crazy, and that's a fun twist in all these games.
Yeah, if anybody needs a little like teaser to get them interested for Thursday, I will say that there is a Metroid Other M connection that I want to bring up in discussing
Whoa.
this game. Yeah.
I love it. But we don't have time to discuss any of that right now because we are doing it on Thursday. Mark, those are the games that we have been playing. I'm a segment ahead of us, I guess. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
I'd say for me, the big notable release this week is on Friday, June 4th. DC Superhero Girls Teen Power is released for the Switch, published by Nintendo. It was announced at that last Nintendo Direct that we had. Kind of, I would say for sure, a surprise announcement. But I like seeing, any video game company, but I think it makes a lot of sense for Nintendo. Nintendo is very deliberate about curating a broad base. And so I think it follows for me. It makes sense for me that Nintendo would choose to publish this game.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, one of the things that I find appealing about this game, and I'm probably not going to pick it up, but the one of the things that like has me tempted is that like, yeah, there are like mainstays of like the the women of the DC universe, right? Of we've got Wonder Woman and we've got Harley Quinn and characters like that. But I'm also seeing like Carol Ferris as the Star Sapphire, and I'm seeing Jessica Cruz as Green Lantern, and I'm like, oh, there are some deep cuts in here that I'm like deeply emotionally connected to that I would just want to spend time with in video games, or I will read comics that they're in. They never show up in movies, so like yeah, there is a part of this that is very appealing to me just on roster alone. um and then also, what am I going to say no to Catwoman? Come on, it's Catwoman.
And then maybe not as notable, but on June 5th, on Saturday, a game called Mighty Goose comes out on the Switch eShop, just pointing out that the Goose game renaissance
Yeah,
continues.
yeah. With that, we are in the Goosessance. Renegoose? I don't know. I don't like either of them. All right. Those are the new releases. Let's close this out. Which brings us to another segment, a regular segment, a recurring segment. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers did not play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are taking a suggestion from Benton and Brian, who wrote in for our 433 episode and wanted us to talk about cities that we've never been to, but we'd like to visit. And why is how that sentence ends. Mark, is there a city that you have not been to that you would like to go to?
Man, there are so many. But if I had to pick one, I think for sure like Tokyo. I've never been to Japan.
Oh,
Would really
man.
like to go to Japan. And then another one, I don't know what if it's probably not a city. Can we just say like scientific base? I'd really like to go to Antarctica. I think that'd be so cool.
You're not worried about like an it situation breaking out? Not it, the thing?
I mean, either one could, worry
Yeah,
me
either one's
wherever
bad,
I
yeah.
go. But no, I'm not too concerned with the thing situation.
The thing.
Yeah.
Mark,
Happening.
this weekend I watched Alien versus Predator, which also takes place at a scientific like research station at the North Pole, or it's a former like whaling town that's at the North Pole.
Oh, okay. Well, I have no interest in going to the North Pole. I want to go to
Very good.
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Okay, all right. But some sort of science station. What do you think you get to do at those science stations?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot of like nature talks. Like if you're going with like a tourist
Yeah.
group, right? Like it's a group of 10 of you. And then you probably have to like pitch in and like carrying milk jugs around
Yeah, that's
places,
probably
where
right.
they need
Yeah.
milk in Antarctica. I just think it'd be really cool. Yeah, man, how about you, Patrick? What cities have you never been to that you'd like to visit?
Well, so much of Europe I have not been to. I will echo your Tokyo. I would love to go to Japan in any form. But there is one city in Hungary that has the statue of Columbo. Mark, are you aware that Budapest has a statue of Columbo and his dog? Um, just like in the middle of the city. It's just there's a statue of Columbo there. We could go, we could pay our respects to the Columbo statue, and then walk around. There's something so just charming about most European cities that it's like small streets, buildings close together, things constructed when we didn't have these enormous cars to drive through. Man, I would just love to spend some time walking around them.
Yeah, totally. I feel like of the US cities that I've been to, I feel like Boston is the closest. There are like parts of Boston that are the closest to
Mm-hmm.
recapturing that sense of like intimate, like walkable space that a lot of European cities have. I've never been to Germany. That's like I would love to go someplace in Germany.
Germany's cool. I've been to Germany and Austria, but was maybe too young and too checked out to really be paying attention. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we went to Innsbruck, which is like the most quaint mountain town you're ever gonna, and it's just adorable. But I was 18 and jaded and was like, meh.
I 100% know what you mean. I went to Italy when I was like 14, and for like a third of it, all I wanted was McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, my parents took us to Washington D.C. when I was like 16, and all I wanted to do was play Magic with my with my friends. um, yeah, are there? I'm trying to think of if there are other like U.S. cities that I really have like that I haven't been to. I haven't. You mentioned Boston, and I've been through Boston, but I've never actually spent any time there. Um,
I'd like to go to
I
Atlanta. That's another one
yeah,
where like I've hit the airport, but like never been outside.
yeah, I've never been to Portland. Um, I've been to Seattle. I like Seattle. So this is not answering the question. I would go back to Seattle to experience that city. Vancouver. I'd love to go to Vancouver. I know not
Mm.
technically American, but still.
I would.
Um,
I'd love to go to Auckland. I'd love to go to New Zealand.
yes. Oh man, or Australia. Look, there's a big world out there, and I haven't
Hmm.
seen most of it. Um,
I know, and
yeah,
like as like in the U.S. uh with vaccinations and everything, like COVID restrictions are coming to an end. It's hard to forget that there are other parts of the world that like
yeah,
have
not doing so
not
great.
been so lucky, and so it's like I do wonder when these travel restrictions are going to end because I would love to get back out there, but also conscious of the fact that like there's still an enormous pandemic going on.
Yeah, it still is a very much life-threatening situation for a lot of the world. Um, there's also, oh man, I mean, I feel like I'd like to see Mexico City. Like, I think that would be awesome.
Mexico City's beautiful. I've never been to anywhere in South America. I'd love to go to Brazil, Argentina,
Yeah.
pretty much anywhere. I would go pretty much anywhere.
Uh, we were accompanied today. Hold on, I just closed out the window by an ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, a city that I have been to, but a museum that I have not. Mark, we should go to this museum someday. That's attainable. That's something we could plan and execute right now. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
I would love to, Patrick, I'd love to visit that museum and tell them the reason why we know about it and why we're like so interested in coming.
Yeah. We should see if we could put on our own performance of 433 while we're there.
Yes, yes, for sure.
But like a real
Okay.
one, not one where we still talk and like make noise. You know what I mean?
Um, okay. Let's do this probably mercifully, maybe one more time. I both want to talk about this and I do not want to talk about this. I'm, of course, referring to rumors, reports about the next version of Switch hardware that it maybe appears to be looming. And I'm somewhat hesitant to talk about it recording it today because
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility that very soon like we will know more about it officially, and so all of our speculation that we're doing right now will be moot, not mute.
It'll,
But
but we could mute it if we wanted to. I think it's good though, and we should talk about it. Mark, famously, at least famously between you and I, our very first episode of this show that we released, we titled "No More NX Rumors," because you and I were sick of talking amongst ourselves about Nintendo's unreleased, unrevealed next generation of hardware, which was at that point just known as the NX. So look, being fed up with rumors of Nintendo's next hardware is our bread and butter, baby. It's where we live, it's where we're comfortable. So let's just strap in, let's talk about it, and let's make ourselves irrelevant like 2 weeks from now.
okay, if this episode can be timely for 2 weeks, I would say that is a great achievement.
Yeah, not likely.
Okay, so the reason why this is in the news is actually as we were recording our E3 prediction episode with special guest Connor McCabe from last week, we were talking about how we didn't think this Switch revision was going to make any appearance at E3. And as we were talking about that, Bloomberg released an article written by Takahashi Mochizuki and Debbie Wu, citing anonymous sources with the following details. One, that the Switch revision, whatever it is, will start production in July for release in like the September, October timeframe. Two, that the announcement of this Switch revision could be made ahead of E3 to allow partners to talk about the software that they've been preparing for that. So,
Let's pause there for a second because I think it's amazing how this piece came out on Wednesday evening, like Wednesday maybe 9 o'clock Pacific time, so like midnight on the East Coast, which then put everyone on high alert for Thursday and Friday to be like, is Nintendo going to drop some big news? Nintendo? super quiet, super chill, not revealing that they've got anything, any like hot news that they're sitting on. But that's where
Yeah,
we are right now.
right. That's where we are right now. And so, there, of course, as with all of this stuff, like with Nintendo Directs, there is hot speculation that potentially tomorrow, Tuesday, or I guess today, Tuesday, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, that Nintendo will like release this information then. That is assume because it's after the holiday. We are getting really close to E3. E3 is a week from Saturday. And we still don't know what Nintendo's E3 plans are as of this moment when we're recording on Monday night. So yeah, I just really don't know what to make of any of this at this point. There is so much smoke that it seems crazy to me that we're not going to hear something. Um, but on the other hand, I a little bit am like tired of talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, especially because like, with every step of it, like some parts become clearer, but some parts are just as mysterious as they have always been. Or just as like speculative, right? Like there's so many pieces of this puzzle that are like sort of documented, but like there's just so much speculation around it that like it's hard to keep track of what someone has assured us is true and what people are just hoping is true.
Yeah, completely. I mean, because like to run down what I think we know, or has been rumored or speculated, like I can't even remember at this point.
Things we think we know.
Yeah, like I can't remember what comes from a more reputable source like Bloomberg at this point versus just like somebody online. But this is what I think we know, or we think we know. Same basic size as the current Switch and support for like current Joy-Con, but it would have a bigger screen with reduced bezels. And so it's not that like the Switch itself would be bigger or that the bezels would be gone entirely, just that it would be like in a larger screen in that same footprint. Supposedly it's going to be an OLED screen. The latest reports from somewhere say that it's going to have like a Surface style flap for tabletop mode instead of just like the dinky little plastic kickstand that exists
Kickstand, yeah.
currently. Easier access to the SD card slot. Some reports say that the dock will be very similar, but just a little wider and have built-in Ethernet support. Like, so it'll have a built-in Ethernet port. And then the other big upgrade I would say is it has 4K support when docked.
Yeah. So that's a lot. And then I guess the one other like piece of information that came out of the Bloomberg reporting was that it is likely that this version of the Switch will replace the like the current vanilla Switch, but will sell for more. Will be a more expensive machine than the 299. So it would be on the shelves at the same time as the Switch Lite at 199.99. And then the second model that would be more expensive than the 300 that the Switch currently is.
And the price part is a little bit speculation because Bloomberg in their article point out that their sources are supply chain sources. So these are not people from within Nintendo that have any idea on the name or the marketing or any
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of stuff. They're purely like the like component suppliers. And so uh the speculation on price again is just that. It's just speculation. Like nobody knows. Remember the speculation before the Switch was revealed that it'd be like 199, and that
Yeah.
turned out to be false. I'm trying to remember, and I think it was the case that the new Nintendo 3DS was more expensive than the base Nintendo
Yeah,
3DS. Is that
I
right?
believe that's correct. Yeah.
It just but the thing that seems interesting to me and like where I don't know how to wrap my head around it is like it's not like the Switch is cheap currently. So,
Right.
$300, they're selling them as fast as they can make them. So the demand is definitely there. So maybe if they raise the price, they would be able to get away with it because like I would definitely want one. And so like I think a lot of people would upgrade plus anybody who bought new ones. So maybe I answered my own question. Maybe they could totally get away with charging like 350 for this.
Yeah, and I think especially if the 199 Switch Lite remains on the market too, that like there is a lower price point option to get in cheaper than then I think they probably can go higher there. Is that what you're thinking? You're thinking 349.99?
I don't know. I genuinely at this point have no idea what to expect. I have no idea what they're going to name it. I have no idea what the price is going to be. I have no idea how they're going to sell it, like, like how they're going to market it.
Yeah.
Um you can kind of, if you want to use past behavior as an indicator of what they might do this time, I do think it just makes sense to call it like the new Nintendo Switch, versus something like I've seen a lot of speculation that it might be like the Super Nintendo Switch or something like that. But to me, that too much denotes like a new console and doesn't
Yeah.
really make like any sense for what is happening right now. But yeah, I really don't have any idea. I am very ready for, if this is real, for Nintendo to like pull the ripcord and just kind of let us know what's going on. I think it'll be bad news for Bloomberg when that happens, because I think these articles generate a ton of clicks for them.
I think that's probably true. Will it be bad news for us? Because then we can't talk about it on news episodes every week.
That's right. That's right.
I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. There was a posting from a product listing from Amazon Mexico that was for the new Nintendo Switch Pro. That's how they have the item listed in in the product catalog there. Um, but I don't think that means anything. That sounds like a real placeholder name to me. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, I would be confused for it to be the new Nintendo Switch Pro when there's no Pro version right now. It feels like you pick one of those qualifiers, not like both of them.
Yeah, I think there's no way that it's coming. I also don't really even think that this is evidence that the machine exists in whatever its name is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're seeing so much evidence from other places that the Amazon Mexico store was like, oh yeah, we should get a placeholder ready just so we have that, we can pop in the assets when it's time.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I could also see like it be totally possible that they know that something is coming, and then somebody just entered a placeholder name and the page went live, and so once they figured that out, they took it down. I really don't know what to think of any of this. I guess the question is, Patrick, would you try to get one of these if
Yes.
it was
What?
released? I know,
Yes.
I
Huh?
know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I guess it's not a bad question though, right? Because like we both you and I sat out the Switch Lite revisions because we were happy with the experience we were having on our Switches at present, and I think both you and I like to play on the TV a lot. Maybe not more than most people play, but like we played on TV a lot. So for me, the Switch Lite like doesn't have the functionality that I need. But if this does, and it's just, my Switch is it's a day one Switch, the launch Switch. Picked it up at Best Buy at midnight with you. um, and yeah, I'm ready to replace it with something newer and stronger and better. And I'll be excited to get in the muck and try to pre-order these things and do whatever we got to do to just like get them.
Yeah, the one thing that makes me kind of like hesitant to believe that they are going to get rid of the regular Switch initially is just like Nintendo has set a really aggressive um projection for how much Switch
Right.
hardware they're going to sell. And so unless they can create this new hardware at a similar level to what they are like pumping out the existing hardware, that seems like a difficult transition to make, where it's like a
Yeah.
product that's already fairly scarce and now, like introducing new hardware to replace it that is also going to be scarce. But also that is just kind of the reality of gaming hardware right now, right? Like if you want a new Xbox, if you want a new PlayStation, they're just hard to get. And so maybe that'll continue to be the case for Switch as well.
Well, I mean, what's funny is I think this is going to create an immediate and like a immediately plentiful secondhand market for original model Switches, right? Like people, this is going to be an upgrade system. This is going to be something that enthusiasts flock to, and that means that enthusiasts will have their old model of Switch that they can, sell through eBay or trade back into GameStop or whatever. Like I think this does some good just for their supply numbers if they can if they can satiate the market's desire for new Nintendo Switches.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Man, that will be kind of crazy when
Yeah.
yeah, wow. Strange times ahead. I do hope that we hear something sooner rather than later. Dragon Quest held a special celebration for the series' 35th anniversary last week, featuring creator Yuji Horii teasing new games in the franchise. They released like a bunch of information about different Dragon Quest games. Uh, Kind of a disappointing tease for about Dragon Quest X and a new venture called Dragon Quest X Offline Edition that are, of course, going to be Japanese only. Um, for me, like a little disappointed that Dragon Quest X Offline there
Yeah.
is going to be Japanese only. But I guess again makes sense. There is so much content in Dragon Quest X that I think like localizing all of it at this point for the sales that Dragon Quest games generate in outside of Japan is probably not worth the effort.
Yeah, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But like, man, when they were playing the like hype trailer for Dragon Quest X, and like showing all the different like updates and versions that they've done for it, like it seems really cool. I think it would be really, really fun to get in a massively multiplayer Dragon Quest world. Like I think I could really get into that.
They also showed off a game called Dragon Quest Treasures, which they said would be like a new take on RPGs, as well as a bunch of other Dragon Quest titles, like a mobile puzzle game. But I think probably the two big announcements that like are probably the most exciting for me is Dragon Quest III is getting a remake in the Octopath Traveler style. It's Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. Um, and it looks exactly like Octopath Traveler,
Yep.
but just like with the spirit of Dragon Quest infused into it. Which now that I see this, it's like, of course, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, and of course just like lights my imagination on fire for all of the NES and Super NES games that Square Enix should be re-releasing in this style. I think the early Dragon Quest games are like a perfect example. It's a little bit of like a lateral move to the Super NES or the Final Fantasy games, because I think they were already like trying to do things with perspective, like Final Fantasy VI especially. They use so much mode 7 and just like the overworld stuff that like some of that is like the flavor of the game even when it looks kind of crappy. In any event, who cares? Remake everything in this in this style. You want to sell three $60 games to me: Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 5, Final Fantasy 6 HD remaster, 2D HD. I'm there day one.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Like Final Fantasy VI is immediately where my mind went. Um, this one, Dragon Quest III HD 2D, has no release date yet or even release window, but they did promise that it would be a worldwide release, which for a couple of these games was like a theme, which is interesting. It's a new tact, I would say, as they
Yeah.
as they continue to like try to make inroads outside of Japan for Dragon Quest. Uh Yuji Horii did suggest they were looking to adapt the Dragon Quest and that to the first Dragon Quest and Dragon Quest 2 to the style as well. So maybe that's something that we can anticipate in the future if Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D is a success.
It was a cool moment, Mark. I don't know how much of the like actual presentation you watched, but it's Yuji Horii with it's somewhat like a host who was maybe like a comedian or something, and they're like on a set on a stage, and they're sort of like queuing up the video packages and stuff like that. But otherwise, they were just like having a conversation about these games. And there was it was either like a bell or an air horn. I forget exactly what it was. That was sort of Yuji Hori's signal to stop talking, right? Of like, don't, you're gonna give away something that you're not supposed to give away. And when he started talking about the original Dragon Quest or Dragon Quest II coming out in the same style, that's when that alarm started going off, being like, no, don't say that yet. We are not committed to that. Um, which I think is awesome. I think I want all my video game announcements live streamed with the creator and a comedian and a horn that just tells them when to shut up. I love it.
um, the other thing that I thought was cool about the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D trailer was we saw like a first person perspective which we have never really like seen in these Octopath Traveler style games before. Because of course, Dragon Quest combat happens in kind of like a first person perspective where you're looking directly at the enemies, and so that was kind of neat
Well,
to see it used in that way.
yeah. Well, what was it, strictly first person, or was it doing the sort of like, it looked to me like it was the like Golden Sun perspective, where like you're sort of at like a 2/3 angle or like a 3/4 angle behind your party members.
So I now I have to go back and watch it. I thought that there was a moment where it was just like straight up like earthboundy like first person
Yeah, yeah.
perspective, but I could be wrong. I could be misremembering.
Also, you already mentioned them. I don't want to blow past them entirely. That Dragon Quest Treasures looks like it is a spin-off of Dragon Quest XI, because it features Eric, who is one of the main characters, and his sister Mia, who you don't meet till like 60 hours into that game. But it's just like their life as kids, stealing stuff and like going on treasure hunts. And I'm obviously a big sucker for Dragon Quest XI. That's Echoes of an Elusive Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch, and I would be interested in checking this game out, but I don't think we got any info about this coming stateside. It looked like it was a Japanese exclusive, at least to this point.
Ooh, I can't. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember either. And I of course promise. I vow even to one day play Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an
No,
Elusive
no,
Definitive Edition
never
for the
gonna happen.
Nintendo
It's
Switch.
not.
I recently re-downloaded it on my Switch, in preparation of playing it sometime.
Very good.
Maybe once I finish these Famicom Detective Club games. The other big reveal from this live stream was they did announce Dragon Quest XII in development. Just kind of the teaser trailer was just kind of a logo. I hate to say it. I genuinely hate to say this, but it gave me Dark Souls vibes with like the cinders coming off of like
Yeah.
a bonfire type thing. It was just a logo. It's like it says like DQ X1 and then like boom, like another like eye is sliced through it to make it like DQX12 or 12. You get it. You understand.
XII.
We
Yeah.
all understand Roman numerals. We understand what I'm struggling to say. No other information, no platforms announced, but there was a question about when the question was asked by the comedian about what platforms it would be on. The air horn got another appearance, cutting off Yuji Horii before he could answer.
So, Mark, what do you think that means? Do you think Nintendo is bringing it to just strictly the new Nintendo Switch Pro?
I think it's going to be multi-platform, and I
Yeah,
think it
me
is
too.
going to be kind of based on whatever version of the Dragon was, because what Dragon Quest 11 I think was created on Unreal Engine 4, and then it had to be like rebuilt for Dragon Quest 11S so that way it could run on Switch. And I think I am of the belief that it is going to be built on that engine so it is capable of being on Switch and whatever the Switch revision is, in addition to other platforms, at least PlayStation and PC, maybe PC coming later. I will be shocked if it is not on PlayStation, but I will be similarly shocked if it's not on Switch. And so I
I
think
mean,
it's going
honestly,
to be both.
at this point, I would be shocked if it doesn't come to Xbox as well, because the 11 either is currently or will be at some point this summer free as part of Xbox Game Pass. So like they're obviously throwing money in that direction. It seems like
Yeah.
everyone has their sort of special relationships with Dragon Quest, and whether or not that's really paying off stateside or not is sort of an open question. But I think, I don't know, for me, Dragon Quest 11 was sort of like the the one that crossed over, right? Like obviously it was the one that I played, but I feel like it was the one that I was seeing like buzz about. So that like by the next one, people will already, like, the profile of Dragon Quest in the West will already have been raised to the point where people will be ready to play it. Especially if the HD 2D remake hits well and like performs well and people enjoy that. So I think there's totally a space for it. Maybe on all platforms. I like that idea. And maybe that's why he was cagey about it, is because they're like, we're gonna bring it to everything.
Yeah, because I just feel like in Japan, like like Nintendo is dominating to a degree that like
Yeah,
PlayStation has almost in a lot of ways like become irrelevant in Japan. And so, with Dragon Quest being still a very like Japan focused franchise, I would be shocked if it's like a PlayStation exclusive. But by the same token, internationally, like worldwide, PlayStation and Xbox to a lesser degree are enormous brands. And it
yeah,
seems to me like they are priming Dragon Quest to be treated more like Final Fantasy, where it's like everybody's getting it, and it's although I guess Final Fantasy 16 is a PlayStation exclusive, at least initially.
right.
So what do I know?
As was Final Fantasy VII remake. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. So
it's it's very funny because like Square Enix is one company, but like they don't seem like it, right? Like I think you can still you can say like whatever Yuji Horii and the Dragon Quest games, like that's still Enix, right? Like that's still a very like Japanese company and less a like worldwide sort of entity like Square Enix and Final Fantasy is.
yeah, and I think for sure like Dragon Quest seems to very much still be a Yuji Horii joint,
Yeah,
right? It is like it seems very much like his baby, and that he is potentially has like a lot of say in like even the platforms that the games show up on. The other reason why I think it might show up on all platforms is because they specifically call this game, and you can tell from the teaser that it is like a departure.
yeah,
Dragon Quest is very like cute and kid friendly. Like it's very family oriented in a way that Final Fantasy has like not been for of like quite a few games at this point. And this to me feels like an attempt to broaden the audience of Dragon Quest by making it maybe more like Final Fantasy. And what that means and what it ends up looking like, I'm super, super curious to, because the art style, like that Toriyama art style, is so ingrained with what like Dragon Quest is. So I don't know what to expect from this game, which is really exciting.
yeah, yeah. Totally agree. I'm also very excited. It's a fun, weird presentation. If it sometimes hard to sit through. All of the conversation between Yuji Horii and the comedian. It translated by one woman doing the best she can to keep up with them. But it's all just very like specific and very weird and great. And makes me just excited for Dragon Quest in general. So yeah, let's bring it to all platforms. Let's try to make it more grown up. I don't know, whatever. There'll be another one after that. I do think it's so funny that they're like, and now we're revealing the new Dragon Quest game. After Dragon Quest 11, it is drum roll please, Dragon Quest 12.
I know, but we're like video game fans are so funny because it's like, of course Dragon Quest 12 was in development, right? But we just want them to say it. We're just dying for them to
Yes.
say the words Dragon Quest 12. That's all we care about. Even though we all knew it was happening, we just wanted to see those. We just wanted to see that word.
It has a subtitle too, right? The Flames of Fate.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Last week, the Pokemon Company revealed release dates and box art for both Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which will be released on November 19th, and Pokemon Legends Arceus, which comes out January 28th, 2022, which is definitely earlier than I was anticipating it would come out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Definitely earlier. The November makes a lot of sense for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. That's like sort of the Pokemon sweet spot of out before Black Friday. But yeah, the January 28th is so early and like so fast. On top of that, that uh, I don't know. It feels a little bit like a marketing nightmare, but also like who cares? The Pokemon games sell themselves.
I also think it's just kind of like to me, I was these announcements felt like they came out of nowhere. Like it wasn't tied to
Yeah.
any other new information. It was just like, hey, like a couple months ago we released these games, and now here's the box art and the release dates. It felt a little like inglorious, but I mean, not that like there has to be a lot of hype around a release date.
Well, I mean, we are in the period now where look, E3 is a week and a half away, but it has also kind of started already, right? Like we'll be talking. We already talked about the Dragon Quest thing. We've got some Sonic the Hedgehog news coming up. Like, there are live streams already. We're in it, Mark. We're in it. We're in the extended E3 window.
Well, speaking of the Sonic news, there was a Sonic Central live stream last week that revealed a remake of Sonic Colors, the 2010 Wii game. I guess maybe it's a remaster, not a remake. It's called Sonic Colors Ultimate, and it's coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch on September 7th. There's also a two-part animated tie-in called Rise of the Wisps, featuring the voice talent from the game, including Roger Craig Smith as the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, who I thought just a few months ago I saw that he had like tweeted or posted somewhere that like, hey, I'm not doing the voice anymore, but he is
But
the
he's
voice in
back.
this game. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because like his personal announcement about it was like he was sad, like he was
Right.
let go, and even tweeted like an image of like a broken blue heart, and in him announcing that he was coming back, he like retweeted that same image but with like the heart stitched back together. Um, so I don't, who knows what's going on over at the at Sonic Team.
Well, especially because it's like I'm assuming that if this game is coming out on September 7th, like any new voice work he had to do or whatever was like has already been recorded. So he knew this was coming out, presumably.
Yeah, great
So
point.
yeah. Um I I've never played Sonic Colors before. I feel like it has a fairly good reputation. But yeah, I've never played this one before.
Yeah, same.
Additionally, Sega confirmed that the next Sonic game is in development for Switch and other platforms for a release in 2022. And a press release suggests that the name might be Sonic Rangers. Eurogamer reports that this version of the press release that included the name was not meant to be shared, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Eurogamer probably shouldn't have reported on something that wasn't meant to be shared, I guess. Or who cares? And now we know that the name of the game might be Sonic Rangers.
Well, take this for what it's worth, but earlier this year on Reddit, there were some users who discussed playtesting a new Sonic game, and what they described is that it's open world with like occasional classic like Sonic levels. Um the build that they played sounds like a mix of Sonic, Breath of the Wild, and Ubisoft open world games.
Okay.
Presumably Sonic has a new move where he runs when he runs, like a trail appears behind him, and then the player like closes the loop, and if you close the loop, Sonic performs like a strong attack. And you can see something like resembling that in the teaser trailer. So I don't know, like who knows what to expect? Who knows by 2022 um maybe we will be ready for the Sonic Rangers borrowing program. I think for me that's the most exciting
oh,
part about a new
oh boy.
Sonic game is figuring out what we're going to do, how it interacts with the Sonic Forces borrowing program. Cuz we haven't
Right.
faced this problem yet. It'll be 5 years since the release of Sonic Forces that we have to grapple with this with Sonic Rangers.
And you think that the Sonic Colors Ultimate that release will not affect the borrowing program?
No, I don't think it counts.
Okay, all right. No
Yeah,
remakes, no remasters.
that's kind of how I'm feeling. That's kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
strong position. I
Because
like it.
well, I mean, because we'd put ourselves in a position with this next game as well. Because Sega also revealed that they are developing a compilation of classic Sonic games. They are calling Sonic Origins. The collection is set for release also in 2022 on the latest platforms, whatever that means, and includes Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD.
This seems like a weird package to me, because I had a collection like this on GameCube that was called the Sonic Mega Collection that had all of these games on it, plus a couple others like Doctor Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I believe Sonic Spinball was on here. Um, it's weird, and maybe those games will also be included on this Origins collection. Um, and maybe the Origins collection will be like a discount product. Maybe it won't be a full $60 game or whatever. But like the notable thing here is that Sonic 3 has been sort of missing from Sonic collections of late, or even Sonic re-releases that they just don't release 3 a lot. And I believe a lot of that has to do with the licensing where the music is concerned. Um, but there's some other component too that like diehard Sonic fans understand that I do not, about why that game is so frequently shelved. Um, but I mean, it's a cool collection of games that I sort of like. So I'm all about this thing coming out.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I loved Sonic Mania, and so I wondered, like, yeah, should I check out some of these older games? I was kind of puzzled by this one too because I don't think of Sonic games as being like difficult to acquire. Um, and so to like repackage them, I feel like there must be something more. And maybe it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like some like
yeah,
collector edition stuff. Like um maybe we'll see
I
some
know
behind
that
the scenes or something like that.
there's something with the music in Sonic 3, part of it being written by Michael Jackson, right? That then I don't know if like the music rights for the game then get tied up with the estate of Michael Jackson or what, but that it has been difficult for them to re-release um, any of those games since the GameCube era at least. But so maybe it was an issue of like it's something that he allowed when he was alive, but now his estate like isn't. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's all
If anybody
speculation.
out there knows what
Yeah.
the deal is with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, definitely drop us a line.
Yeah.
Nintendo has partnered with Scholastic esports organizer Play Versus to make Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon 2, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe officially recognized varsity athletics at participating high schools in the US. Um, as
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And this to me follows along with what we've talked about in the past where Nintendo I don't think they have a combative relationship with like the fan competitive gaming scene, but they are Nintendo, just like in everything they do, wants to very much be in control. And so, like partnering with Play Versus makes a lot of sense to me that as something that they would do. Um, as part of the partnership, Nintendo will give away hundreds of Switches to select qualifying schools, and also 3,000 schools will receive either Super Smash Bros. Ultimate or Splatoon 2 and a 12-month Nintendo Switch Online individual membership subscription. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, not getting much love here. I guess it's not team oriented, is probably why.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and also like it's nice that they are having it officially recognized, but it doesn't feel competitive to me in the same way that Smash Ultimate and Mario and Splatoon 2 are. Um I have a buddy who is a teacher and also an esports coach for high school kids in Chicago. Um and yeah, like the stories he tells about like coaching the kids and playing like League of Legends or whatever they're actually getting up to, um, always sounds like he's speaking a different language. And if this means that he's going to be able to talk to me about games that I know, I'm all for it.
Sincerely cannot wait until we start getting our first wave of like movies following the sports movie formula, but it's with
Yes.
esports instead of like boxing or cross country running or something like that.
Yeah. No, it'll be super fun. I wonder how because like Smash Ultimate like works online, but like not at a competitive level, right?
I don't know, but like also maybe for the tournaments and stuff, it'll be
It's all
more in
local, yeah.
person again. Yeah, yeah. I don't really. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm just caught up in like a dreams of a Chariots of Fire film, but for
Yeah.
StarCraft 2 or something like that. So,
Yeah. It'd be good. We'll see it.
and finally, in addition to the 4 new SNES and 1 NES games that were added to Nintendo Switch Online last week, we also got an SP edition of Super Mario Kart for SNES Switch Online. It immediately unlocks 150cc and all of the tracks, but probably most notably, this is the first and only SP version of an Super Nintendo game that we have gotten so far.
Which is super cool. Like it's something that and also like makes a ton of sense that like there are game modes basically locked behind you spending a ton of time in Super Mario Kart, and like really you don't all you really want to do with Super Mario Kart is like dip in and play a few tracks. But you forget that when you first turn it on, you have very few tracks to choose from, very few circuits to choose from. So this SP edition, unlocks that in a way that feels totally different from like, the SP version of Metroid that just like puts you at the end of the game with like all the missiles and whatever, or like the Kid Icarus one, which are all those are all cool experiences, but not really like a revelation or just like it's totally different for them to have this game where it's like here's all the content just like up and ready for you to enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, I totally forgot about like the SP versions of stuff, and I had never thought about the fact that we didn't get a Super Nintendo SP game as part of the SNES Switch Online releases. So that's really fun as well. Just to have that be like
Yeah.
a thing to potentially look forward to each time these are released.
Gotta say, I still hate the way these are organized, and the way you access them as separate games is outrageous. When you start up the game, it should just be like, do you want to do this SP version? Or do you want to just play the game regular? Like, it's just, it's crazy that like you would have to have, I've got my SP versions all like in their own row at the bottom of the NES Switch Online catalog. Cause like normally if I'm accessing games, I don't want to play the version of it that's like different. I want to just play the game. But yeah, I've got my gripes with the way those things are organized as is. I want some folders. I want more options in organizing these things. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Hopefully we're not totally irrelevant, and there will be a couple hours here before the new Nintendo Switch is announced. But if it has not yet, you can relish in the fact that we are very relevant, and you can rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter, or wherever you share stuff that helps us out tremendously. On Twitter, you can follow us. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
Hey, it's Mia.
Hey, it's Allie.
And we host the rom-com review podcast, P.S. I Love Rom-Coms.
Each week, we'll have incredible guests come and discuss a new rom-com, grand gestures, meet-cutes, and of course, that elusive chemistry. Mia, what are you doing holding that giant boombox over your head?
I'm hoping to win over listeners with this grand gesture. Take us back!
Find a new episode every week.
And subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Brought to you by Campfire Media. Wow, you're still holding that boombox.
Yeah, I've got great upper body strength. Thanks, CrossFit.
P.S. I love rom-coms.
Campfire.